Next up, well, you're already up on stage, but I was going to say I welcome up on stage Carlos Diaz Ruiz, Assistant Professor in Marketing at Hanken School of Economics. And Carlos is going to talk about conspiracy theories and how they convince people. From his presentation, we will learn about an online environment that gathers people to believe that the Earth is flat. And he will tell us how these people make their arguments credible to their audience. Carlos talks about why conspiracy theories are hard to challenge when they become a part of someone's value system or worldview. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. My name is Carlos Diaz Ruiz, and I'm Assistant Professor of Marketing here in Hanken School of Economics here in Vaasa. So my interest is broadly on disinformation research, but in this particular time, we're talking more about conspiracy theories and how they convince their audience. We're going to talk the context of this specific talk is about the flat Earth conspiracy theory. And I want to start by mentioning something very specific. In a free society, anyone is free to believe whatever you want. You want to believe in dragons or crystals or whatever, that's fine. I'm not here to say that what people believe is wrong. You are free to believe whatever you want. The problem is that when conspiracy theories become dangerous to the democratic governance of society is when they get part of culture wars that makes democratic functioning impossible. So that's what we're going to talk about, and that's why we have to start talking first about disinformation research. So what it is? Disinformation research is a study of how some actors in society, especially in social media, aim to manipulate media, manipulate the internet manipulation, media manipulation. It's an orchestrated campaign for political purposes, for military purposes, but also for commercial purposes. So disinformation research talks about these campaigns that aim for harm or for profit. And conspiracy theories play within that because these are one form in which disinformation research manifests. And they are meant to polarize society, paralyze society, and create uncertainty, and delegitimize democratic institutions. That's why this is important. So it's not about specific beliefs, it's about how they are used for a certain malicious purpose. So first things first, misinformation is misleading information, but it might be a mistake. A journalist might publish misinformation, for instance, when they have a wrong attribution, but it might just be the nature of an interview, that it was badly transcribed. It's still misinformation, it can be corrected. Disinformation is on purpose. It aims to do something to that audience. When it's commercial misinformation, it aims to sell through lies, for instance. But it also can be military misinformation, or it can be political misinformation, disinformation, sorry. Now, the issue here is that this information circulates to something called echo chambers. Online, on social media, echo chambers mean the stuff you see on your feed, the recommended videos, the friend suggestions, the people you see online. All these create an echo chamber in which you only see, and this is very important, content that is engaging to you. And what is engaging is either things that you agree or things you disagree, and you are likely to click on that. So if something makes you angry, that's part of your echo chamber. You keep clicking on things that make you angry. Now, this is the problem for democratic governance for one reason. And the reason is that disinformation plays through culture wars, which means that public policy becomes impossible because it becomes tribal. It becomes our interest versus their interest. In the past, we could agree that this public policy will serve most of us. But when public policy works through a culture war, then it's what benefits my group and what goes against that other group. So that's what it becomes democratic governance difficult to pursue. So conspiracy theories play into that. So what we don't know is that very often in disinformation research, the user of disinformation, the consumer of conspiracy theories, are seen as victims of some kind of a lie. But actually, the consumer of misinformation is participant. It tries to become part of this shared fantasy. They do it because it advances their own beliefs. So how does that work? Now, let's talk about the flat earthers. The flat earthers are a group of people that exist for quite a while, actually, and they believe the earth is flat. Fine there, no problem there. You can believe the earth is flat, you can believe crystals, dragon, no problem. I have no problem with your beliefs. The problem is that at some point, the flat earth becomes a conspiracy theory because it becomes weaponized as part of a culture war. And that's when my interest starts, because it's not just something that you believe. It becomes something that gets used to undermine institutions, science, whatever. The flat earthers have been around for a long time. We're talking the 1800s. And at that time, they were still against science. They started at that time, it was against Newtonian physics. And through time, the idea was that through time, they have been changing their enemy. At some point, it was the moon landing, then it was NASA, then it was satellites. And through time, it has had their own enemy, essentially scientific consensus. They became really, really important in the 2010s, like about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, through YouTube. So they started to become widely seen and very popular on YouTube. And this is where the fieldwork works. So what we did is that we went to the thousands of channels that have flat earth beliefs, and we analyzed how they build their argument. This is the key point. We don't want to say whether you are wrong or right. We're not trying to make fun of you. We're trying to see how you make your argument believable, how you convince people, and because their audience keep on growing. And that's the point. How do they convince their audience? So what are their arguments? We found 3 main arguments. The first argument is religious. We were not expecting it, but this is the key idea. It's a religious argument. The religious argument is this. Atheists control science, and they weaponize science against Christians. That's the point. Flat earthers did not invent this controversy. It already existed. Flat earthers jump into that existing controversy. So the atheism versus Christian works, the argument goes a little bit like that. Evolution is a theory from atheists meant to discredit Christian beliefs. If you believe in evolution, then you can also tell you that the Big Bang theory is also another theory that makes God seems very far away in the past and therefore is not compatible with Christian beliefs. If you believe in evolution and you believe in the Big Bang theory, then I have a flat earth theory to sell to you. Because if the earth is round, is spheric, then God cannot be on top of you and below you. Anyway, they use biblical literalism. In order to convince their arguments, they build from Scripture, and they build arguments based on Scripture, which it's an argument that is the way that this argument goes. Now, the second one is about the traditional conspiracy theory standard, meaning us, the normal people, the regular folk, against the government, the elites, people in control. The idea is this: knowledge is power. People in power control knowledge, and they deny access to the normal people of that knowledge. We, the common folk, the common people, fight to liberate knowledge. That's the argument. So the idea is that why the flat earth? Well, when you go out and see the world, it looks flat. You need scientific evidence to tell you that actually it's spheric. The argument goes like this. Why would they go all the way to convince you that the earth is spheric? Because they don't want you to believe your own eyes. If they can convince you that you do not believe your own eyes, then it's easier to tell you any other belief out there. So that's their argument. So what they do is that they build something called ulterior motives or real motives. Any argument that comes from authority, any scientific argument, gets dissected to find the real motives. So any argument becomes susceptible to find the real actions of scientists. That is not about these arguments, it's about what they really, really want. Now, the third one is perhaps quite interesting because it's also very unexpected. These are free thinkers who don't like to be told what to think. That's the point of free thinkers. They want to see by themselves whether the Earth is flat or not. Great for me, that's fantastic. They want evidence, and they want to see whether the Earth is flat or is not, and they run their experiments to see by themselves whether it is. This is anchored on a very old tradition in which the common people and the experts are in disagreement. Real knowledge does not come from books, comes from experience. Real knowledge, you cannot trust the experts. Therefore, you need to see things for themselves. So what they do is that they debunk. That's their argument. They prove the flat Earth by proving that the spheric arguments are false. They go and present evidence that NASA is wrong, that all the evidence that we know, they go attacking it. And if it is not spheric, therefore, it must be flat. No other alternative possible. Now, what can we take from this? The free thinkers and the religious people were opposite for a long time. They used to, the free thinkers were against religious dogma. They were against the church telling them what to believe. But in the flat earth, they are allies. They are together. They all work in the same way because, and this is not the point, now we stop talking about flat earthers, now we talk about old conspiracy theories, they search for common enemies. How they convince? By inserting themselves on one side of an argument and building that culture war because they appeal to our tribalism. They appeal to what my side is telling me, it must be believable that the other side. The more that I have easier time believing my group of people than the opposite people. So, if someone tells me that you need to be a good Christian to be in that way, or you need to be a good free thinker if you believe that way, then it's easier for me to believe it. We're built like that. We're just humans after all. So conspiracy theories extend because they appeal to our internal divisions. And that's why they are very dangerous, because they are always meant to put us against them, to find one group against the other group. And that's why they become convincing, but also why they are very dangerous. The belief as such is not. The tribalism, how it is used, it's the main issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. Very interesting. Do we have questions from the audience? If we do, please put your hands up like this gentleman is doing. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, have we seen an increasing trend in disinformation over time because of global phenomena, for instance?
Absolutely. It is, you can track the amount of disinformation online. It's very easy to see their engagement. It's very easy to see how it works and their growth. It's not your imagination. It's becoming really a major issue out there because it is really profitable. Because when all the ecosystem that works online works by monetizing clicks and views. So if you click in one, it works the same thing. You click on cat videos or you click on flat earth videos, gives exactly the same money to different people.
Do we have more questions? Over here?
Regarding big tech, for example, have you understood that there are clear efforts in trying to so-called shadow ban this type of disinformation, misinformation regarding these type of conspiracies in order then to kind of steer people who are searching for these information about these to go to a certain direction in their thinking? And I'm thinking because if I, for example, search for flat earth videos, I mostly get flat earth debunking videos. And so I'm perceiving a type of that the algorithms are giving me something and not 50-50, let's say. Well,
these are two questions that are very important. The first question is, I think everyone understands the dangers of disinformation. Every policymaker in Europe, the United States, and everywhere tries to do something about it, but the answers are not easy at all. Because the monetizing and banning accounts flirts really closely with censorship practices that we don't want. And that's an issue. No one has solved it yet. But there are certain techniques that have been used, and one of them was in the flat earthers, especially because the flat earth argument emerged during one of the congressional testimonials in the United States that was specifically about what are you doing about the flat earth issue. So they became like a specific case in point. But to answer the question specifically, everyone is trying to understand how, but there is no real answer. And it's also very controversial because digital platforms have outsourced content moderation practices to companies that has conflicted values, and outsourced also all kind of moderation issues to other people. So it's not solved at all. But there are some efforts about that, definitely.
More questions? Over here.
How can kind of we as individuals try to identify disinformation and kind of try to ourselves not fall into that tribalism?
Well, that's a brilliant question, and this is all about media literacy. Because you need to understand the people who are more vulnerable to disinformation fall into two groups: early teenagers and seniors. And that part of it, of understanding from where that disinformation comes, has a lot to do to understanding how what you see is curated. What you see online is not the organic comments on the world, is an algorithm that shows you things because it thinks you might be interested. So far, that system works great for cat videos. It doesn't work really good when you talk about information. Entertainment, great. When you are talking about real information, not so well. So if you understand the system, it's easier for people who understand the technical nature to be more wary of that. If you just see and it's like everyone is talking about it, it's easier to believe that this is what the world tells you about. So yeah, one of the issues to try to fix that is to fix the algorithm. Is one of the main issues that I have been trying to talk about that. Yes.
We have another question here.
Yes.
There's been a lot of, during the past years, a lot of talk about my truth and your truth and our individual view of what is actually the truth. And some people say that then this is a good thing for democracy, while others say this is bad for democracy. What is your view on this?
Well, you know, democracy is about opposing points of view. They call it the marketplace of ideas. It's fine. The problem is not whether people have different ideas or not. The problem is that these ideas become tribalized within culture wars so that only my group wins versus the other group wins. We always have disagreements about whether one economic system is better. Not so long time ago, people fought wars about whether we wanted communism versus democracy. That was part of how things work. However, the real issue here is that within a society, we cannot have a conversation on public policy if every time we talk about it is about tribalizing this group versus the other group. That's what is different. What is different is not that people have different ideas or my truth versus your truth. What is different is that they become weaponized to make my truth is better than your truth. Then it's a problem because we cannot agree on what is better for society, for all of us. And that's the real issue of democratic governance. People are interested in disinformation research because it makes democratic governance impossible. The purpose is to paralyze. The purpose is to polarize so that no one can take action. That's the real danger of it. It's not about distinct beliefs. It's about a specific effort to paralyze societies and make money on the way, essentially.
So what about then going the step further and saying that when we realize that a polarized world with black and white is not very good in that sense, how do we create a world where all of these gray zones then are allowed in order to have a more freer world with all thinkers of all traits?
Okay, important point. Polarization is not a bad thing. Radical ideas are not a bad thing. You know, human suffrage was a radical idea at the time. Suffragettes were radicals at the time. Polarization is not necessarily a bad thing when people have the opportunity to have representation, an opportunity to present their ideas and to be able to convince other people. We don't want an hegemonic worldview in which only certain worldview is allowed. I don't think that's the point of democracy. I don't think that's the discussion. The discussion is about how do we bring public policy in a way that is not necessarily about harming subgroups or small groups and try to benefit my only group, and then making that as the worldview, because that's the danger. Polarization is surprisingly fine. It creates groups. The problem is that when some groups don't get an opportunity to get representation, don't get an opportunity to solve their grievances, then it's when polarization becomes pretty dangerous. But it's part of society.
All right,
So
thank you. I'm
just
sorry.
Just one last one. So if you're saying then that if you are actively suppressing certain things, like let's say the flat Earth in this case, then you're actually making it dangerous. If you would not suppress it, would it then not be dangerous?
I didn't say that at all. No. I didn't say that at all, and it's not the continuing idea. Some ideas have no place in society. Hate speech has no place in society, and there is no point in which we need to have a balanced view on that. But that's a different story. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Carlos. And perhaps if you do have questions still for Carlos, maybe you can ask him personally in the big hall. Thank you.